Welcome back to day 23 of How to Fix the World in 80 Days, and today we're talking about love. How ironic, the one thing we all want the most, the one thing that's so hard to find. Or at least to find a good one anyway. So for all the billions of people out there struggling to find a relationship, what should we do? Well, that's actually an interesting question. See, as much as I want to help you out, as much as I want to give people good advice, in this case, it's hard for me to say what love is. I mean, these days we've got LGBTQ, we've got gender identity, we've got gender equality. It's an interesting time to be in love, and clearly, we're not all looking for the same thing. But if you are interested in my opinion, here's what I would do to identify some of the biggest problems we have with relationships. I've narrowed it down to a top 5. 1. Double standards. If a man is allowed to have 6 wives, why is a woman not allowed to have 6 husbands? If a woman sleeps with multiple partners, she's called a slut. But if a man does it, it's high fives all around. And these days, why are girls not allowed to ask me out? This has nothing to do with the video, I'm just concerned. You should call me. 2, why are so many people not having fun in their relationship? Seriously, I know people who genuinely dislike their partner and the relationship is completely toxic. Why we do this to ourselves, I don't know. 3, why are so many people uncomfortable talking about sex? It's not a big deal. Seriously, how bad is our sexual education if we can't talk about the fact that at some point, our parents, our brothers, our sisters, our friends had sex? Get over it. If they didn't do it, you wouldn't be here. 4, when did sex and relationships get all jumbled together? Sex does not necessarily mean a relationship, and a relationship doesn't necessarily mean sex. They do not need to be the same thing. And 5, why do so many relationships end violently? All around the world, more than 1/3 of women describe being victims to some kind of sexual abuse, and yes, men are also victims of abuse as well. Seriously, this just doesn't sound like very much fun. So when I think about these 5 subjects and all the other problems that people have with their relationships, the one question that keeps coming back is why? Why do we put ourselves through the pain, the suffering, the tears, when almost always it doesn't work out? And I guess the only answer I can come up with is that after all the failed attempts, for that one time that it actually works out, it's so worth it. So even though we've all been in a bad relationship, or at the very least know someone who's been in a bad relationship, we also all know someone who has a great relationship, who's in love, who's smiling all the time, who's on top of the frickin' world. And we can't help but want what those sick bastards have found for themselves. So, if you are struggling to find a relationship, or maybe you want to make yours a little bit better, what should you do? Well, first, you should take my opinion with a grain of salt, because I'll be the first to admit that every relationship is a little bit different. I'm also hopelessly single, so I don't know how much you really want to value my opinion, but for those of you who are interested, I'll keep it super brief. All my answer comes down to is 2 very short guidelines. 1, if you can have a logical, non-violent conversation about the 5 issues that I just brought up a bit earlier, and you're relatively content with your partner's answers, you've got a pretty good shot. Communication is super important in any relationship. If you can't talk about your differences, you can't talk about your strengths, your weaknesses, at least you'll know where it all went wrong. And 2, most importantly, I don't care if you're a guy, a girl, or anything in between, make the first move. All right? If you don't, nobody will. Life is way too short to be living with regrets. Maybe she'll say yes, maybe she won't. Who cares? It's better to take a chance. And besides, if she's not worth risking embarrassing yourself over, was she ever really worth it?